Welcome to Crafty Café, a monthly offering from the Pflugerville Public Library, usually held the third Sunday of each month and currently being offered virtually. I'm Meg Miller, an Adult Services Librarian, here with another fun craft geared for ages 12 and up. Those who register through the library calendar can pick up their material supply kits between December 15th and December 30th. For everyone else watching, we hope you are able to give this project a try. Let's get started by gathering materials for this wood slice photo transfer.
This is a project I've really been looking forward to trying. So doing a photo transfer onto a wood slice for our supply kits this month, they're in just a paper lunch bag, and you've got a couple of things. So we've got our printed design, and this is actually the Heritage House at an event a few years ago when someone brought a really cool classic car and parked it in front. So we got this. And if you're local to us, you may be saying, wait a minute, that's not the direction the Heritage House faces. It is not. This photo has actually been flipped so that the mirrored image now, when it is placed on our wood slice, will be the correct direction. So really, if you look through the paper this way, this is the direction the house actually faces. So in the bag, you are getting your wood slice as well as a small piece of wax paper to go over it for once we get our podge on there and our photo, a little cup of Mod Podge, and a brush to get it put on there. All right, so in order to get started, I am going to go ahead and protect my workspace so that I don't get any of the Mod Podge onto the table or somewhere else that I don't want it. Okay, so I really don't need to cover too much because this project is going to be pretty straightforward and not take up too much space or be a little too much. So it is some time. So we are not going to finish this today. We are just going to get this first step done today, and then we will come back tomorrow once it has all dried, and we will move on to the next step. So really the first step is putting the two images, or the image, on your wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and add a very thin layer on my wood all the way across, and then do the same to my picture. This is a project that I've had heard about for a really long time, and was something that I always wanted to try, but thought was something that you really needed a inkjet for. But turns out this way actually does work with laser printed. So you would be able to like print this out on print something out on a library printer in color, and then have it do with this technique to kind of work. So I've got that basic on there. I will say I want to make sure that either I am completely covering the top of the wood all the way, just kind of one little layer that's going to hopefully dry pretty clear, and make sure I don't have any puddles of podge kind of laying around. That way, once my paper is on there, if that particular piece of the image doesn't cover, I know I'm not going to just have kind of a white splotch there on the outside. Okay, I'm gonna let him set for a second, and I am gonna come over to my picture and do the same thing. So I'm not gonna go over the same area too much because I don't want to start pulling up the ink from the printout. I'm only gonna go back over if I've got a little bit too much of the podge kind of on the image. But I do want to make sure that I am getting every piece of the picture covered in that really light layer of Mod Podge with no real puddles. I don't want an extra big pile of the podge anywhere. Okay. And I'm moving pretty fast. This is not going to dry immediately, but I also want to make sure that it's still not too dry when I start putting it on the wood slice. Something like this you could do, I mean, these wood slices are, I believe, around the 4 or 5 inch mark, but there are a ton of smaller ones like that make little ornaments or something like that that you could use for a project like this, and do a bunch. I know this is the time of year where you're kind of starting to think of office gifts or something, and a project like this would go pretty fast and be pretty easy to make specific to the person, kind of personalize it. Okay, so I've got my image with Mod Podge on it. I've got my wood block with Mod Podge on it, and I really am just gonna lay down on top and smooth out. So thinking how I've got my wood circle, this seems to be a flatter, so that seems a little bit more natural as the bottom. I want to make sure that I get the middle of the house. I can kind of feel underneath there. There's where the edges of my wood slice are, and I can see the edges of my photo. So I'm just going to start in the middle, and I'm going to smooth out, making sure that I don't have any bubbles, but just gently. I don't want to start getting, if the paper starts to pebble up, I don't want that to happen at this point while it's wet. I just want to smooth out gently and make sure that there are no bubbles underneath. And if I don't like my placement, at this point I really can't bring it back up without losing some of that image. So my placement is what my placement is. I can kind of see from the other side too. Well, maybe I'm going to lose the tail end of the car, but that doesn't seem too bad. I do have the center of the house, which is really what I wanted to make sure was on my image. So now that that's all smooth, as I said, this is the step where we will wait 24 hours. So if you have something you can put as a weight kind of on top of this to make sure it pushes down smoothly, definitely do that. Because of the wax paper, if you've got a book with a plastic cover that's pretty heavy, you could do that. I've got this gallon of Mod Podge that I can just set right on top of it. It'll give it a little bit of pressure, make sure that stays pretty smooth until we come back tomorrow and for the final step to our photo transfer. All right, so it has been at least 24 hours, allowing my paper to dry onto my wood slice. And so I'm ready to, using water, get rid of the paper and see my transferred photo on the wood slice. For this tutorial video, we're going to do it a little bit differently than I did for my example. Your best case scenario, if you're at home doing this craft, would be to go to a sink and get a little bit of water and do it there. Because I don't have a sink handy to me, I am just going to use this pan as well as some water to start that process here on the video. So I really did just run my slice under the water and kind of get that water into the paper with my fingers. I have seen tutorials where they've used a rag or maybe a sponge to get in there and start pulling that paper up. So we're starting to see that the paper will kind of pill up, and I can see my wood slice underneath. And I'm just gently rubbing. I don't want to get too far or too heavy duty with my rubbing because I want the image to stay. I'm going to go ahead and remove the excess paper that's just above and beyond my wood slice, because that I don't have any need for. Alright, and then just using my thumb, peel that paper off. Brushing it away, continuing around. And as my paper dries, I might add a little bit more water, or if there's a particular piece that really didn't get soaked through. So this top layer of paper right off. And I got a little bit too violent right up here. I can already tell that the image has not stayed transferred there. Trying to get through the process. You'll be able to take your time a little bit more and really just kind of gently go through your image to get that layer of paper off, but still leaving the transferred image on the wood slice. So a little bit of water there, and I can really start to feel that paper peeling up, just gently rubbing it. And I can see where it is a little bit more of a filmy look, where here I can start to see the car is really darkening out there. So I can kind of tell, I can also tell by feel where there seems to be a little bit more of the paper over the image. I'm just going to go ahead and keep working on that. But again, gently, so that I don't lose more of the image underneath. Don't feel too bad if some of the image, you get some spots where the image is pulled off, because that really kind of gives it a bit of a rustic look where it is on the wood slice. Alright, actually, this piece of sky, I'm just going to kind of, I like the wood grain kind of more showing through there. I'm going to make sure I peel off a lot of that. Once you've got that first layer pulled off, you may decide to wait a little bit or use a hair dryer to kind of let that dry. It'll be easier at a dry point for all the little pills of paper to kind of brush right off. Right now they just want to roll around on the paper. I can tell there's a few spots where I'll want to come back and do a little bit more. Get some water on there. Yeah, I'm really starting to see that car more on the corner here. Again, my paper's just pilling up, but as it dries, I will be able to remove that. And as well, once you get it completely dry and all those little peeled pieces off, you'll be able to see if there are any spots that have a little bit more paper on them than you would really like. And then as it dries, you can use some leftover of your Mod Podge to coat the top and really seal your image transfer in there. And it also gives it a little bit more of a glossy look. So something like this you could definitely do with other photos, family photos, places you love. As I mentioned, I hope this is our Heritage House Museum here in Pflugerville. And so it's just a really great building here in the city of Pflugerville. We hope you enjoyed this Crafty Cafe where we photo transferred onto a wood slice. As always, we love to see your completed projects and look forward to the next Crafty Cafe.